A young mother in Cincinnati in 1974 set her newborn on a metal countertop to change a diaper. Her husband had picked up a Strolley car seat that hooked over the front bench with a lap belt. The crib at home had a dropside, lead enamel, and a foam bumper tied with ribbon. None of these products were illegal. The Consumer Product Safety Commission was 3 years old and had not yet written the warning labels her parents never had. Number 19 on this list killed 32 children before it was outlawed in 2011. Number 12 carried a contamination her grandchildren are still suing over. Number 2 on this list changed federal law after hundreds of infant deaths. These 25 baby products kept families functioning through the 1970s. Then, the recall notices arrived. Hit that subscribe button. Here are the 25 baby products from the 1970s that are illegal now. Number 25, accordion-style baby gates. The lattice of soft pine slats stretched across doorways in suburban hallways from coast to coast. Parents pressed them between two walls and trusted the V-shaped top edge to keep a crawler out of the kitchen. The gate folded flat when company came over. It cost about $4 at any hardware store. What nobody printed on the package was that the diamond-shaped openings in the body of the gate were exactly the right size to catch a small head. 8 infants between 1975 and 1984 strangled in those openings, the last one an 11-month-old in Meridian, Idaho. 23 other children survived with neck injuries serious enough to be reported to federal regulators. The Consumer Product Safety Commission cut a deal with 6 manufacturers in January 1985 to halt production. World Best, Mapes, Madison Mill, North States, New Line, and Paris Industries all signed. The accordion gate, as it existed in 1974, is now banned for sale in the United States. Modern gates use straight bars, narrow gaps, and hardware mount brackets. Number 24, lawn darts. The metal-tipped projectile was the centerpiece of every backyard cookout in the late 1970s, sold in cardboard boxes with bright yellow plastic fins and steel weights heavy enough to puncture a melon. Older kids and uncles tossed them at hoops staked into the lawn, while toddlers wandered through the playing field with juice cups. Roughly 670 lawn dart injuries reached emergency rooms each year, 3 out of 4 of them children under 15. Over an 8-year stretch, more than 6,100 people went to the hospital, 81% of them kids. 3 children died, ages 4, 7, and 13. The case that finally moved Washington was Michelle Snow, 7 years old, killed in April 1987 when a dart thrown by her brother's playmate pierced her skull in the front yard of her family home. Her father, David, spent the next year and a half lobbying. The federal ban took effect December 19, 1988. Selling a vintage dart set today is a criminal offense. Number 23, mercurochrome. The little brown bottle with the orange-red liquid lived on the bathroom shelf of nearly every American household. Mothers dabbed it onto skinned knees, diaper rash that broke the skin, and the crusted edges of cradle cap. The dye stained the wound a vivid magenta so you could see exactly where the antiseptic had gone. What no parent in 1974 was told was that the active ingredient, merbromin, was 45% mercury by weight, and a thin layer of broken infant skin absorbed it directly into the bloodstream. Scattered case reports of mercury poisoning piled up across 2 decades. On October 19, 1998, the FDA reclassified merbromin from generally recognized as safe to untested, which functionally pulled it from American shelves. The agency could not point to mass poisonings, only to an absence of any proof that benefits exceeded risk. Sales were halted in Brazil 3 years later, Germany in 2003, and France in 2006. Number 22, lead-painted cribs. The high-gloss enamel finish on a 1973 nursery crib was almost always lead-based. White, yellow, mint green, the soft pastels every department store stocked. The paint chipped at the top rail where teething infants gnawed for hours. Researchers in 1971 had already published the data linking childhood lead exposure to permanent neurological damage. But the federal ban did not arrive until 1978, and millions of cribs already in service stayed in service. A 6-month-old chewing on a painted rail could absorb measurable lead within a single nap cycle. Pediatricians in working-class neighborhoods ran blood tests on toddlers and found contamination rates in the high double digits. The 1978 ban capped lead in children's surface coatings at 0.06%. The newer cap, set in 2009, dropped that to 0.009%. Any crib manufactured before the 1978 cutoff and sold today as an antique is technically illegal under federal law if a child can reach the painted surface. Number 21. Pull-string talking dolls with extended cords. The doll said 11 phrases in a tiny voice when you pulled the white plastic ring from a panel in her back. Mattel made millions of them through the 1960s and into the 1970s. Mothers handed the dolls down to nieces and toddler cousins. The string itself was 8 to 12 inches long. A second-generation Chatty Cathy in a hand-me-down crib ended up next to a sleeping infant more often than the original packaging ever anticipated. Federal toy safety standards adopted in the late 1970s required cord lengths short enough that a free loop could not slip over a child's head. Modern guidelines cap any pull cord on an infant or toddler product at 6 inches maximum, with a breakaway clip required if the cord can reach a sleeping surface. The original pull-string mechanisms cannot be sold for the under 3 market today. The dolls show up in vintage shops as adult collectibles, never as nursery toys. Number 20. Vinyl crib teething rails with phthalate softeners. The rail clipped onto the top of a wooden crib so a teething infant gnawed plastic instead of paint. Manufacturers in the early 1970s used soft polyvinyl chloride and softened it further with phthalates, so the rail compressed gently against gums. Nobody at the manufacturer or the retailer thought to ask what happened when an infant chewed the same rail for 6 straight months. By the late 1990s, researchers had documented that diisonionyl phthalate and DEHP migrated out of the plastic into saliva, were swallowed, and accumulated in body tissue. The Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act of 2008 banned 6 phthalates from any children's toy or childcare product at concentrations above 0.1%. Vinyl rails as constructed in 1974 cannot legally be manufactured or sold for infant use today. The replacements are firm cotton fabric stretched over a denser foam core. Number 19. Dropside cribs. The slatted hardwood crib with the rail that lowered on a metal track was the standard American baby bed for 2 full generations. A new mother in 1974 chose between a Storkcraft, a Simmons, or a Childcraft, and every single one had the dropping side. She lowered the rail with one hand, lifted the baby with the other, and clicked the rail back up with a foot pedal. It made nighttime feedings simple. It made grandmothers with arthritis able to help with their grandchildren. It was sold in Sears, JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, and every regional baby store from 1965 to 2010. The mechanism was the problem. The plastic hardware that held the rail in place could detach. When it detached, the rail dropped a few inches without warning, opening a V-shaped gap between the mattress and the rail. An infant rolling toward that gap could be wedged headfirst into the opening, unable to lift the body weight required to free the head. Between 2000 and 2010, the Consumer Product Safety Commission documented at least 32 infant deaths from dropside detachment. Another 14 suspicious cases were investigated. The agency issued recall after recall through the late 2000s, naming Generation 2 worldwide: Storkcraft, Simplicity, Jardine, and dozens of smaller brands. Each recall covered hundreds of thousands of units, sometimes millions. Storkcraft alone recalled 2.1 million cribs in November 2009. The cumulative total approached 11 million units across the decade. On June 28, 2011, the federal ban took effect. New crib safety standards prohibited any dropside rail. Manufacturing them, selling them, even passing them along to a daycare or a relative became illegal under federal law. Hotels and childcare facilities had until December 2012 to remove existing dropside cribs from operation. The cribs that lined every American nursery from the moon landing to the iPhone are now contraband. Number 18. Tris-treated children's pajamas. The Federal Flammable Fabrics Act required all children's sleepwear to resist ignition starting in 1972. Manufacturers reached for Tris-2, 3-dibromopropyl phosphate, a brominated flame retardant that bonded to polyester and cotton at the dye stage. 50 million infants and toddlers slept in Tris pajamas across the next 4 years. Mothers ironed them, washed them, folded them in dresser drawers. The chemical leached out of the fabric during sleep and absorbed through skin. The National Cancer Institute reported in late 1976 that Tris caused kidney cancer in laboratory animals and was a probable human carcinogen. The Consumer Product Safety Commission banned production and sale on April 8, 1977. 18 million size 0 to 14 garments sat in retail pipelines on the day the ban took effect. Another 7 million square yards of treated fabric had not yet been cut. The agency seized product through 1978. The ban itself was challenged and partially overturned in court, but no manufacturer ever returned to brominated Tris. Pajamas sewn from pre-banned fabric retain the chemical permanently and remain dangerous if worn. Number 17. The Strolley infant car seat with a single lap belt. The molded plastic shell sat on the front bench of a 1973 station wagon and hooked over the seat back with a single adult lap belt threaded through the back. A coordinating WeCare model held infants up to 20 pounds, rear-facing with a thin foam pad. Avocado green, turquoise floral, white pom-pom fringe on the matching stroller. The lap belt held the seat to the car. Nothing held the baby to the seat except a flimsy fabric tab across the chest. Crash testing by Consumer Reports in 1974 ruled most models unfit. They tumbled forward, ejected the infant, or collapsed on impact. The Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard for Child Restraints, FMVSS 213, took effect in 1981 and required full strap systems, anchored bases, and a 5-point belt configuration. What most people miss is that every Strolley, every Costco hammock, every General Motors love seat made before that date is illegal to sell for use in a vehicle today. Number 16. Baby walkers with rolling casters. The walker was a fabric seat suspended in a plastic frame on 4 small wheels. A 6-month-old who could not yet sit up could push herself across a kitchen floor at surprising speed. Manufacturers sold them as developmental tools that helped babies learn to walk. Pediatricians by 1975 already knew the device delayed actual walking. The bigger problem was speed. A walker on a hardwood floor could roll 3 feet per second, and any unguarded staircase ended in catastrophe. 85% of walker injuries reported through emergency rooms in the 1980s came from staircase falls. Fractured skulls, broken collarbones, concussions in infants too small to break their own falls. Canada became the first country to ban the sale and importation of baby walkers in April 2004, after documenting nearly 2,000 serious injuries in a single decade. The American CPSC adopted mandatory standards in 2010 requiring brakes that stop a walker at a stair drop. The classic 1970s wheeled walker without brakes is no longer legal in either country. Number 15. Crib bumper pads. The padded cloth liner ran along the inside of every crib in every nursery from 1965 to 2020. Mothers tied them at the corners with cotton ribbons. The pads matched the sheet, the dust ruffle, and the curtains. They came standard in every shower gift set sold by Sears. The reasoning was that a bumper pad protected an infant's face from the wooden slats. The reality was that a sleeping infant could roll face first into the soft surface and suffocate, or could become entangled in the corner ties. The Consumer Product Safety Commission connected at least 113 infant deaths to padded crib bumpers between 1990 and 2019. 27 of those were ruled accidental suffocation or strangulation by ribbon tie. The Safe Sleep for Babies Act, signed into federal law on May 18, 2022, prohibited the manufacture and sale of padded crib bumpers nationwide. The law also banned inclined infant sleepers, which appears later on this list. The bumper pads sitting in attic baby boxes from 1974 cannot legally be donated, resold, or used. Number 14. Paregoric for teething. The brown glass bottle behind the pharmacy counter contained a 4% tincture of opium dissolved in alcohol with camphor and anise oil. Federal law allowed any pharmacy to dispense up to 2 ounces every 48 hours without a prescription. A grandmother in 1974 who had used it on her own children told a young mother to rub a drop on the gums of a screaming 6-month-old. The child went silent within 10 minutes. Doctors knew the active ingredient was opium. They prescribed it for diarrhea in adults, and they tolerated the off-label gum rub because the alternative was a sleepless household. Repeated use built physical dependence in infants, and withdrawal in newborns whose mothers used paregoric during pregnancy was documented in pediatric literature throughout the 1960s. Federal scheduling reclassified paregoric to controlled substance status starting in 1970 and tightened further through the decade. By the late 1970s, the product was effectively unavailable for over-the-counter purchase. Modern teething is treated with cool rings and parental patience. Number 13. Codeine cough syrup for infants. A pediatrician in suburban America in 1974 routinely prescribed cherry red codeine syrup for infant coughs and bronchitis. The bottle came home in a paper bag with a measuring spoon and instructions to dose every 4 hours. Codeine in an infant's body converts to morphine in the liver, but the rate of conversion varies by genetic profile, and a small percentage of children metabolize it so rapidly that a routine dose causes respiratory depression. The pediatric literature in the 1980s started reporting infant deaths after tonsillectomies prescribed codeine for postoperative pain. The FDA issued a black box warning in 2013 against using codeine in children under 12. In 2017, the agency banned codeine and tramadol from any children's cough or cold medication and from any pediatric prescription for children under 12. The cherry syrup that lived on the kitchen counter for 3 generations is gone. Number 12. Asbestos-contaminated talc baby powder. The tin of Johnson & Johnson baby powder sat next to the changing table in 1974 and went on every diaper change. The warm corn silk smell defined the entire nursery. The talc came from a mine in Vermont. The mine produced talc and tremolite asbestos in the same geological seam. Internal company records, later released in litigation, confirmed that Johnson & Johnson tested its raw talc starting in 1957 and detected various forms of asbestos in the finished powder. A 1958 follow-up identified tremolite specifically. 3 separate independent laboratories through the 1970s reported asbestos contamination in J&J products, one calling the levels rather high. The company told the FDA in the mid-1970s that its powder contained no asbestos. Litigation that started in the 2010s now totals more than 67,000 active lawsuits, many filed by women who developed mesothelioma or ovarian cancer after decades of use that began in infancy. The company stopped selling talc powder worldwide in 2023 and replaced it with cornstarch. Number 11. Neo-Mole Soy Infant Formula. Syntex Laboratories produced a soy-based formula that thousands of mothers fed their infants in the late 1970s, particularly babies who could not tolerate cow's milk formula. In early 1978, the company's nutritional services chief recommended removing salt from the formulation. The change cut chloride to almost nothing. Chloride is an essential electrolyte, especially for an infant whose entire diet comes from a single product. Pediatricians in 1979 began seeing infants with metabolic alkalosis, growth failure, and developmental delay. Federal estimates put the number of affected infants between 20,000 and 50,000. Syntex did not list the chloride change on the can. The Department of Justice opened a criminal investigation. Syntex stopped selling baby formula in 1981. The Infant Formula Act of 1980, passed in direct response to the Neo-Mole Soy crisis, gave the FDA authority to set nutritional minimums for any product marketed as the sole source of nutrition for an infant. The original Neo-Mole Soy formulation cannot legally be sold today. Number 10. Magnetic small part toys. The shiny rare earth magnets in 1970s desk novelty kits, building sets, and counting tools migrated into nursery toy boxes through hand-me-downs and impulse drugstore purchases. A magnet swallowed alone passes through the digestive tract. Two magnets swallowed at separate times find each other across loops of intestine and lock together through the bowel wall. The result is perforation, peritonitis, and emergency surgery. Reported pediatric cases climbed steeply through the 2000s. The Consumer Product Safety Commission documented thousands of magnet ingestion incidents and dozens of life-threatening surgeries. New federal mandatory standards adopted in 2014 and reinstated in 2022 require any small magnet sold in a children's product to be too weak to attract through tissue, or large enough that swallowing is impossible. The chrome-plated kitchen novelty magnets from a 1974 toy box are illegal to sell as a children's product today. Number 9. Metal slides over concrete pads. The galvanized steel playground slide in the backyard of a 1974 ranch house was 8 feet of unshaded metal anchored to a concrete footing. In July, the slide surface reached 170 degrees by mid-afternoon, hot enough to raise a second-degree burn on a toddler's bare thighs. The base was poured concrete or packed asphalt. A child who tipped off the side at the top fell directly onto stone. CPSC analysis through the 1990s estimated more than 200,000 playground injuries each year, and concrete or asphalt landing surfaces accounted for the largest share of skull fractures. Federal playground safety guidelines issued in 1981 and rewritten in 1991 mandated impact attenuating surfaces, shaded materials, and rounded edges. The galvanized hot skillet slide on a concrete pad is no longer legal to install at a public daycare, school, or licensed playground. Backyard examples are grandfathered, but no manufacturer ships the design today. Number 8. Painted nursery furniture. The matching changing table, dresser, and rocker that filled a 1974 baby room came from any number of regional furniture brands and were finished in glossy lead enamel. The drawer pulls were lead-painted brass. The decorative trim around the mirror was lead cast. Until 1978, federal law allowed lead surface coatings on furniture sold for any room, including a nursery. Toddlers chewed knobs, gnawed crib railings, scraped paint flakes off radiators with their teeth. Pediatric blood lead studies from working-class neighborhoods in the late 1970s reported elevated levels in roughly 1 in 5 tested children. The 1978 ban capped lead in children's product surface coatings at 0.06%. The 2008 Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act dropped the cap to 0.009% and extended it to all furniture and toys intended for children under 12. Vintage painted nursery furniture from the early 1970s carries a regulatory warning label if sold today, and any retailer who sells it as an active children's product is in federal violation. Number 7. Stuffed animals with sewn-on button eyes. The teddy bear in the corner of a 1974 crib had glass or hard plastic eyes attached with a single metal post and a flat washer. The same construction was used for noses, decorative buttons, and applique trim. The post worked loose after a few months of pulling, and a 6-month-old who put the loose part in her mouth could aspirate the eye into her airway. Federal toy safety standards adopted under the Child Safety Protection Act of 1994 required pull-test certification for any small detachable part on a stuffed toy intended for children under 3. A part that detaches at less than 15 pounds of force fails certification. Modern infant plush toys use embroidered eyes, sealed felt, or molded soft features. Any 1974-era teddy bear with hardware-mounted eyes cannot be sold for the under-3 market today, and the older bears that survive in attics are flagged as choking hazards by pediatric guidelines. Number 6. Pacifier neck cords. The infant pacifier in 1974 came with a coordinating ribbon or beaded chain that tied around the neck so the pacifier would not fall to the floor. Mothers wore them to grocery stores, on long car trips, and during nap time. The The ribbon was usually 6 to 12 inches long. A sleeping infant who rolled into the side of the crib could loop the cord on a slat or a corner of a bumper pad and be strangled within minutes. The Consumer Product Safety Commission recorded multiple infant strangulation deaths attributed to pacifier neck cords through the 1980s. Federal mandatory pacifier safety regulations adopted in 1979 and tightened in 1984 banned any pacifier cord, ribbon, or chain longer than 6 inches and prohibited any attachment intended to be worn around the neck of an infant. Modern pacifier clips use short fabric strips with a quick-release closure that detaches under modest tension. The long ribbon tied through the handle is now illegal to sell. Number 5. Inclined infant sleepers. The wedge-shaped sleeper held a newborn at a 30-degree angle in a soft fabric hammock. Pediatric reflux had been newly identified in the 1970s, and pediatricians sometimes recommended that infants sleep upright to reduce spit-up. Manufacturers extended the idea into a standalone infant bed sold through nursery retailers. The angle worked against the infant. A baby who slid down or rolled to one side could press her face into the soft padded sides and lose access to oxygen. The Consumer Product Safety Commission and Fisher-Price recalled the Rock and Play sleeper in April 2019 after at least 30 infant deaths were linked to its use. Investigative journalism in 2020 raised the cumulative inclined sleeper death toll to nearly 100. The Safe Sleep for Babies Act of May 18, 2022, banned the manufacture and sale of any inclined infant sleeper with a sleep surface greater than 10 degrees from horizontal. Vintage 1970s wedge sleepers cannot legally be sold or donated today. Number 4. Toddler walking leashes on long ropes. The leather or fabric vest fit over a toddler's chest and clipped to a 6 or 8-foot tether held by a parent. Mothers used them at the zoo, at the state fair, and in busy parking lots. The 1974 leash had no breakaway clip and no length restriction. A toddler who tripped over the rope could fall face first onto pavement, and a child caught between two adults walking in opposite directions could be jerked off her feet. Federal child product regulations in the early 2000s required any walking tether sold for child use to include a quick-release fastener, an adjustable length, and a maximum reach of 3 feet. The 1974-era 6-foot rope leashes cannot be sold today for child use. Modern wrist links use coiled phone cord-style tethers and quick-release clips at both ends. The principle survives. The execution from 1974 does not. Number 3. Crib mobiles with detachable small parts. The mobile that hung over a 1974 crib was a wooden frame strung with painted figures, beads, and bells on cotton thread. The figures detached easily. A mother reached into the crib to pick up her baby, and the entire arrangement swayed back and forth, occasionally dropping a wooden bird directly onto the mattress. A 6-month-old who got a wooden bead in her mouth was at risk of aspiration. Federal small parts regulations adopted in 1979 under the Child Safety Protection Act required any object accessible to a child under 3 to pass through a small part cylinder no more than 1.25 inches in diameter and 2.25 inches deep, or fail. A wooden bird-on-a-string mobile from 1974 fails. Modern crib mobiles are sealed plastic units with no detachable elements within infant reach. The colorful wooden mobiles from grandmother's nursery, beautiful as they remain, cannot be sold today as a sleep area product. Number 2. Baby aspirin without child-proof caps. The little orange chewable tablets in the orange and white tin sat on the kitchen counter or in the medicine cabinet of every household with a small child. The St. Joseph brand defined the product. The cap unscrewed with a half-turn. Aspirin in toddler hands was the leading cause of pediatric poisoning death in the United States through the 1960s. More than 400 children died of aspirin overdose in 1969 alone. 200 preventable deaths a year became the floor through the early 1970s. Senator Frank Moss authored the Poison Prevention Packaging Act, and President Nixon signed it into law on December 30, 1970. The first child-resistant cap rule covered baby aspirin starting in August 1972. Pediatric aspirin overdose deaths fell by 45% within 5 years. Modern child-resistant packaging is a federal requirement on any oral medication sold for household use. The smooth half-turn aspirin cap from 1969 cannot be lawfully shipped on a current product. Number 1. Toy chests with non-locking lids. The wooden toy chest at the foot of a 1974 nursery bed had a heavy hinged lid that closed under its own weight. A toddler reaching in for a stuffed animal had her head and shoulders inside the chest when the lid swung down. The CPSC documented dozens of incidents through the 1970s and 1980s of children suffocated, decapitated, or trapped inside toy chests after a falling lid pinned the head against the rim. Federal voluntary standards in 1979 and mandatory standards in 1996 required slow-close hinges, ventilation holes, and removable or restrained lids on any chest sold as children's furniture. The classic American Hope chest-style toy box from a 1974 nursery cannot be sold today as a children's product. The lid mechanism alone disqualifies it. Modern chests use spring-loaded restraints that hold the lid open at any angle and vent grommets that allow airflow if a child climbs inside. These 25 baby products were the ordinary furniture of an ordinary American childhood in 1974. The dropside crib, the lap belt car seat, the pacifier ribbon, the bottle of mercurochrome on the bathroom shelf. They were not malicious. They were the best the manufacturers, the regulators, and the parents knew how to make. Then the data caught up with them. Tell me in the comments which of these you remember from your own nursery and which one surprises you most that it took this long to ban. Because the story of American childhood is not just what we kept, it is what we finally agreed to throw away.